Hello everyone and welcome to this vlog from Parc Astérix, my first ever visit. And here we can see Goudurix, which is actually a Vekoma looping coaster which is at the park, and it's actually located right next to the hotel we're staying at today, called, and excuse my pronunciation, Toutatis or something like that. 3 Owls I believe it is in English. Not much to show you with that, but we are staying in a different hotel tomorrow which has a beautiful canal and stuff which I'll show you then. But yeah, we couldn't get the hotel for the full amount of time basically. I'll explain when they get back, but enjoy some shots of this coaster. Okay, it is now the next day, and as you can see we are in the park. Yesterday when I spoke to you was literally just a travel day. We didn't actually go in the park. This is our first day on park, and here we are next to a very much anticipated ride, Toutatis, an Intamin multi-launch coaster. Honestly, I can't wait for this. And as much anticipated and hoped, that is now my new #1 coaster, Toutatis. I'm not going to review it in detail because it needs its own separate review video, which I will do at some point. But needless to say, it was very fast, very forceful, as I'm sure you could hear from the POV. Tons of airtime, especially on the little shuttle launch section where it goes forwards, backwards, and then forwards again. It just feels so much faster and more forceful than Icon, and hence it is quite a bit better, definitely by far my favourite coaster. We've now made our way round to one of the other big roller coasters at this park, Oziris. This is a B&M inverted coaster, and those of you who watch a lot of my videos will know that I have mixed feelings on these types of rides. I think Nemesis at Alton Towers is very much an overrated ride, but Nemesis Inferno at Fort Park, love that, and I think I'm going to love this as well because it looks more like Inferno than Nemesis. Well, that was a very fun and well themed B&M invert. Definitely the best in terms of how it looks and how it's themed out of the ones I've done. I like how it goes underneath all the pathways. You've obviously got all the water fountains and whatnot it goes over, and this area in general is just brilliantly themed. I love all the Egyptian architecture around there, and Project Exodus is rumoured, the new hypercoaster Thought Park in the UK, to have a very similar theme to this, and I'm very excited because I love all this architecture, and I hope they do something really similar for that because it'll look amazing. More forceful than Nemesis overall. Not the most forceful invert I've done though. Like Inferno is better, I do prefer that, and it is more forceful, but this is longer and has more inversions. It probably will warm up throughout the day and get more forceful, but yeah, overall, really good. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. It is rough, but it's not too bad. Trace to Horror was really good, as expected, and the same can be said for the dreaded and infamous Goudurix. That has a reputation for being one of the roughest coasters in the world, but nothing wrong with it. A bit of headbanging here and there, but I can name loads of coasters rougher than that. The same cannot be said though, and I've not got any footage of this, for Tonnerre to Zerus, which we also did. Get that thing torn down. I think I'll talk a bit more about it when I get home, but that is the roughest coaster I've literally ever been on. Like, my chest and just everything hurts. Oh my word. Day one of our 2-day trip to Parc Astérix is now complete. And we did Pegasus Express at the end of the day. And that has to be one of the best family coasters I've ever been on. Much better than 13 at Alton Towers, but a similar concept as you would have seen with the little indoor section and going backwards. But obviously no drop track or anything like that. Oh, spoilers. Didn't film POVs on them, but we have done the 2 junior coasters today as well. Those being Voldecare and SOS Nubis, I believe it's called. I'm actually here now, as promised, showing you some shots of the second hotel we're staying at for the final 2 nights of our trip. Le Quai de Lutis, I believe it's pronounced. Seemed to like a Spanish village around a canal or something. And it's very picturesque actually, I really like it. Can't remember. Yeah. Oh. I didn't even get wet on that. Oh no! Oh! Yeah, it is. Yeah? And with that, that is day 2 of 2 complete at Parc Astérix. As you will have seen, we did the water rides today. We did do the log flume yesterday, but I didn't film it because you will literally would have seen a view of someone's back. And that last one we did, Oxygen I believe it's called. If you want to do something similar to that, go on Storm Surge at Thorpe Park because it's the same type of ride back in the UK. Getting some more shots of the hotel at night because why not? Apologies for the lack of vloggy content today, but I hope you've enjoyed all the POVs. So there we go, we had an absolutely amazing visit to Parc Astérix, and I can definitely say that I think it's a very underrated park. I'm sorry if the footage I showed you previously didn't capture that, hopefully it did, but yeah, it's one that doesn't get talked about all that much. Thankfully with Toutatis opening, it's been spoken about a bit more now, but I do need to give you a couple of pre-warnings regarding some information surrounding the hotels and also accessibility in terms of the rides, because I've not spoken about that yet at all. So in terms of the hotels, you will have heard me mention before that unfortunately we were unable to get the hotel we wanted to stay in, that being the second one that you saw a lot of footage of for 3 nights, which is actually the moderately expensive one. There's 3 hotels in total. There's one themed to around this massive tree house that I didn't show you at all. There's then the one right next to Goudurix, Tonnerre, I believe it's pronounced. So yeah, I just wanted to give a heads up really that it doesn't seem that you can stay in one hotel at Parc Astérix for more than 2 nights. You're either going to have to do what we did and book 2 separate hotels, or stay in a hotel that isn't owned by Parc Astérix in the local area. Something I also want to bring up is the fact that the first hotel room we stayed in at Le Tonnerre before we moved hotels didn't have any air conditioning. It only really had a fan, and that's not ideal in summer in France because the temperatures can actually quite consistently get into the low to mid 30s, and it was within sort of the mid 30s the first day we were there, and it was just a bit unbearable really. Now, since visiting Europa Park in 2019 and all the issues we had there surrounding accessibility, which if you want to find out more about that, I'll put a link to a video about that in the end screen. I've been really passionate about making sure I inform everyone about the accessibility facilities and ride access procedures at especially abroad parks, but even the parks we have back home here in the UK. And I'm pleased to say that Parc Astérix's accessibility procedures on the whole were really great. It states that you need a specific access card, which I believe is only available in France because it's not something I recognise, but when we went to arrange getting the access passes sorted at the hotel, what we did is we showed my access card from Nimbus Disability, which I was awarded in the UK, which has all sorts of symbols to indicate needs such as queuing and assistance, etc. And that was actually accepted. So what I will say is, if you do have a Nimbus Disability access card for a Merlin Ride access pass or whatnot, then make sure you do take that with you when you do go and visit Parc Astérix. In terms of the ride accessibility itself, it is a little bit confusing, but don't worry, I will have a link in the description to the dedicated page on the Parc Astérix website which explains it in detail. For the smaller rides, it's a paper-based system very similar to the ride access pass system at Alton Towers and Thorpe Park, and all you need to do is go up the exits of the rides and the ride host will greet you and let you on the ride and write a time on a card, which is when you can ride another attraction. However, for the larger rides, it's similar to the Reserve and Ride access pass system that Chessington World of Adventures and Legoland Windsor Resort use. Unfortunately, you actually need to use this website called Toutatis, and that website lists a bunch of rides which you can book, which when you do so, a QR code will be generated, which you need to go up to a dedicated point outside the ride so that a ride host can scan it. Similar to the Reserve and Ride system, the caveat is that you can only ride the rides on this website, which are essentially all the major rides at the park, a limited number of times. For every ride except Toutatis, that is twice a day, but Toutatis you can only actually ride once a day using this system. And I understand that it's the new ride and it's very popular, so they're trying to keep the access lines to a minimum. But first of all, despite it being a new ride, we never saw any queue in this access line or any of the access lines at the park. And secondly, it's just unfair really when a regular guest can ride that ride as many times as they want during the day. For every ride except Toutatis, when you book it for the first time in a day, you won't have to wait at all. The QR code will be generated instantly and you can just get that scanned and get on the ride. But for your second ride, you'll have a timer that counts down before the QR code appears, so you're essentially in a virtual queue at that point. And for Toutatis, the first and only time in a day you ride it, you will have to similarly wait in a virtual queue for the length of the normal queue time. I was very impressed though by all of the access lines themselves. In terms of the rides where you have to go up the exits to get on them, they're perfectly accessible, and all the access lines are very accessible as well. For rides such as Toutatis, which have raised stations, there are lifts, so you can get up there very easily if you have any mobility issues that would prevent you or cause you difficulty using stairs. However, I do want to give you a bit of a pre-warning if you're planning to ride Tonnerre to Zerus on your visit, because as I mentioned earlier, the ride is very, very rough. Tonnerre to Zerus is a wooden coaster that was originally manufactured by Custom Coasters International and featured trains manufactured by Philadelphia Toboggan Coasters, who also manufactured the trains for coasters such as the Grand National at Blackpool Pleasure Beach. But a couple of years ago, they replaced those trains with timberliners that are manufactured by Gravity Group, who also did a bit of retrack work on the ride. And while the retrack sections are very smooth, the rest of the ride is really, really rough. Now, I didn't actually manage to get a POV of this ride because I didn't have my action camera on me at the time when we got on it, and it was a bit rushed getting on and stuff. But this has to be the most painful roller coaster I have ever experienced in my life, because it is evident that the trains do not suit the old track at all. All you feel on the sections of the ride where retrack work hasn't been done is this awful rattle. You feel your bones being shaken to death. I've never known anything like it. Even the worst ride I've ever had on Big Dipper, where it was really jolty and whatnot back in 2019 before they did any work to it, was nothing compared to Tonnerre to Zerus. Honestly, it was one of the most painful things I've experienced in my entire life, and I just couldn't wait to get off it the entire ride. Like, it really hurt my chest throughout the ride and stuff, and for that reason, if you have got any kind of heart conditions or anything like that, I wouldn't recommend it, honestly. I wouldn't risk it. I've nearly finished the video and you've just died. Are you actually taking the actual mick? But the best thing about it is, because of the awful restraints timberliner trains have, where they kind of wrap around your waist, you don't even get airtime on the ride. And what's the point of a wooden coaster if you don't get any airtime on it? That's what they're built for. They should either make some sort of RMC hybrid coaster out of the thing, or just destroy it completely and build something else there that's actually of use. But apart from that, there's no bad rides at this park. All of them are absolutely brilliant. Toutatis is out of this world, and the staff as well. Like, French customer service is actually really good. The staff were just so friendly. It's worth noting at Parc Astérix that a lot of the staff don't speak that much English, so there is a little bit of a language barrier, and that's just something to be aware of. But that's not their fault at all. That's just us British people being ignorant, really, not knowing more languages. It really is a shame, though, that not all theme parks have the level of customer service shown at Parc Astérix and in France in general, particularly one theme park in Germany I visited back in 2019. But to find out more about that, go and click the video on the right side of your screen. And for more things theme park related in the UK and beyond, make sure you click the icon in the centre of your screen to subscribe to ThroneNet.